All right, so today let's talk about why fake stories lack real detail. So, real memories sound different. Have you ever listened to someone tell a story and something just sounds or feels off? You can't quite explain it, but it feels a little bit flat or empty or almost like the story exists, but the experience doesn't. That's because real memories often sound very different from invented ones. Hi, I'm Steve Van Apperen, and today we're looking at sensory detail. Now, I've touched on sensory detail briefly in the past, but I want to go into a little bit more detail today. One of the most interesting concepts in deception detection research is lack of sensory detail. But before we start, just a quick disclaimer: no single behaviour proves deception on its own. There are always exceptions, such as stress, trauma, memory limitations, ADHD, neurodivergent shock, different communication styles, and some cultural differences. We always look at groups or clusters of behaviours, which I've been really ramming home, not one isolated sign. And in serious situations, of course, these observations need to be supported by cooperating evidence. All right, let's get into it. Researchers Johnson and Ray, who developed reality monitoring research, found something interesting. Genuine memories often contain sensory detail because the person actually lived through the event. That means what they saw, what they heard, what they smelled, how something felt, what emotions they experienced. For example, I walked into the cafe, the smell of burnt coffee hit me. Music was playing in the background and the chair felt cold when I sat down. Now that feels real, doesn't it? Because it sounds experienced. Now, compare that to this. I went to a cafe, then I left. Lack of content, information, structure, detail, sensory, and feeling. Possible, of course. Convincing? Not really. Now, this doesn't automatically mean deception on its own, but some truthful people are naturally brief. This is why in one of my previous videos, I talked about baselines and looking for deviations from that normative behaviour. If that's what they normally do and normally say, that's important. Some hate storytelling also. Some communicate minimally, but fabricated stories often struggle to recreate real sensory experience because imagined memories feel different from lived ones. Simple as that. Let me show you another example. Imagine someone says, I went to the beach. Okay. Now compare that with, I walked onto the sand, it was ridiculously hot. Kids were screaming nearby and the wind kept blowing salt and spray in my face. Completely different. One sounds experienced, the other sounds assembled, like a story. Reality monitoring research suggests real memories often contain more perceptual information because they came from actual experience, whereas imagined events often contain more reasoning, more explanation, more constructed thinking. For example, I assume they were there. I thought that probably happened. I figured it must have gone down like this. Now, that's not sensory memory, that's cognitive construction, because when people invent stories, they often tell you what should have happened, not what they actually experienced. And you can hear it in words. Again, this is never proof, but it is a fascinating clue to be mindful of, because genuine memories tend to feel lived, not manufactured. So, let's recap. Watch for missing sensory detail, lack of emotion, or emotional texture, I should say, generic storytelling, heavy reasoning instead of memory, and stories that feel strangely empty. Because sometimes it's not what someone says, it's what the memory fails to bring with it. Some of the references I've used today: Johnson and Ray, reality monitoring; Albert Fridge, detecting lies and deceit. If you found this content useful, comment truth below, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with others you think may need to see it. Because once you understand human behaviour, you don't just hear what people say, you see what they're trying to hide. I'm Steve Van Apperen.